So essentially, we bridge different networks together into one central hub. So what that means is that Bitcoin can be easily sent to an Ethereum wallet. You can easily send Solana to an Ethereum wallet. Basically, all of these kind of wallets and things that are available on our network becomes automatically compatible with each other. So we remove the kind of gaps between different users and different blockchains, making it all on one single layer that can interact with each other.
That's incredible.
Yes. And so we're really trying to build this to build a proper layer that can handle all of crypto as easy as traditional banking. And we want to make this experience where it's something where Bitcoin is as easy as traditional banking while giving the access to the entire crypto ecosystem on one layer.
What is 3speak.tv?
Yeah, so 3Speak is a decentralized video platform on the Hive blockchain, using IPFS and some other technologies to make a fully decentralized video platform.
Yeah, fully decentralized, censorship resistant on the Hive blockchain, which is a fork of Steemit, really fast. You can catch my videos on 3Speak, bit.ly/CryptoRich3Speak.
Take the first step towards online privacy. Get NordVPN.
The Keystone wallet is the wallet that you want to be using to keep your crypto safe. Whether you are a Bitcoin maxi or an altcoin lover, it is perfect for you. Easy to use, 3 secure elements, and integrates easily with MetaMask, Kepler, and dozens of other extension wallets. Get one now to keep your crypto safe and secure. Go to bit.ly/CryptoRichKeystone. Hi Voltec, thank you so much for making yourself available. You're Voltec, one of the team at VSE. Now, I recorded an X-Space with Matt from 3Speak on the Coin Republic X-Space crypto post, which I host on a regular basis. And I'm going to put that X-Space on my channel. People can find it there. And you're involved with the 3Speak project in some way. And I can't for the life of me remember how. So do you want to start by please introducing yourself, and then we'll get into VSE?
Right, yeah. So I worked with 3Speak a few years back. My current focus right now is the VSE project. So shortly after I was working with 3Speak, I started the VSE project about 2 years ago now. So I'm the founder of ODYSEE, and we are a cross-chain interoperability protocol that, to put it very simply, we connect all the blockchains together through a single unified hub.
Oh, that's interesting. Now, just want to say for people who aren't familiar with 3Speak, because it is relevant to this conversation, just what is 3Speak.tv?
Yeah, so 3Speak is a decentralized video platform on the Hive blockchain, using IPFS and some other technologies to make a fully decentralized video platform.
Yeah, fully decentralized, censorship resistant on the Hive blockchain, which is a fork of Steemit, really fast. You can catch my videos on 3Speak, bit.ly/CryptoRich3Speak. Okay, and then VSE, what does that stand for? And this is a hub for interoperability between lots of different blockchains?
That's correct, yeah. So VSE, Virtual Smart Chain. So essentially, we bridge different networks together into one central hub. So what that means is that Bitcoin can be easily sent to an Ethereum wallet. You can easily send Solana to an Ethereum wallet. Basically, all of these kind of wallets and things that are available on our network becomes automatically compatible with each other. So we remove the kind of gaps between different users and different blockchains, making it all on one single layer that can interact with each other.
That's incredible. Now, without getting too technical, and I didn't know, for people, because I do news and politics and I do crypto on my channel, for people who don't know much about crypto, you can't, if you send Bitcoin from a Bitcoin address to a Ethereum address, bye Bitcoin, you run that risk, and vice versa. If I draw an analogy with email, I use Fastmail. I can send an email to a Gmail account, which can go to a Yahoo Mail account because they're interoperable, but it doesn't work the same way with blockchains. So Solana or Ripple sent to a Bitcoin address or an Ethereum address, you run the risk of losing your crypto. And that's because they use different coding languages and stuff, right? So how come you're doing this without getting too technical?
Right. So there's a pretty big gap between different blockchains as is. The majority of the space right now between different blockchains is dominated primarily through centralized exchanges. That's the only real way you can interact between different chains, and that has several problems, right? First off, they're exchanges. They're not like protocols. They're not places where you can have other assets on it. You cannot build on exchanges. Obviously, you know, they're points of exchange, and they're also centralized, so they're risk points, right? Where people are depending on using an exchange to go between Bitcoin and Ethereum, for example, that might fail, and that has failed in the past.
Yep.
And so what we're enabling is that you can have direct connections between these different blockchains that's fully decentralized, and that you could build applications on it. So if you want to use Bitcoin in your smart contracts, you can totally do that on VSC. Or if you want to use USDC from Ethereum on our smart contracts, you can do that as well. But you can also send it between wallets, like having an Ethereum wallet be able to hold native Bitcoin assets. Right, and that's something that currently has not existed anywhere else in the crypto space previously. Now, there's been some stuff to do like decentralized exchanges, which is great, and we love the effort that's been done on that. But there's been no real way that you can directly send tokens on other blockchains to other wallets on other blockchains directly without any kind of middleman or centralized exchanges or anything like that that would otherwise limit the user experience. And so we're really trying to build a proper layer that can handle all of crypto as easy as traditional banking. We want to make it where you can enter in a wallet address, you can make a contact, you can say, hey, this is my friend on Ethereum and I'm a Solana user, and then now I could send them a payment of some tokens that are on Ethereum, right? And we want to make this experience where it's something where Bitcoin is as easy as traditional banking while giving the access to the entire crypto ecosystem on one layer.
Wow. Right now, excuse me if it looks like I'm frowning. I'm fascinated, absolutely fascinated, because this is the sort of thing that isn't possible. So how can you? I think isn't possible. So how can you do this? I know there's a way of wrapping, and for people who don't know, you can take Bitcoin and wrap it in a sort of Ethereum coating, ERC20 coating, which then allows you to run that wrapped Bitcoin on the Ethereum blockchain. But you're not talking about wrapping, though, are you?
No. Wrapping typically involves some kind of entity that has an authority behind it. So with like wrap Bitcoin on Ethereum that you'd see like WBTC, there's kind of an authority that access it. Whereas with VSC, we actually have the consensus of our blockchain acting as the kind of connection to those different chains. So there's no real wrapping or risk that kind of comes from that where you'd have with a traditional like wrap token product. Right, it's kind of that direct access to those different blockchains.
But how does that work? How can you do that?
Right. I mean, so essentially, I mean, if you want to get into the technicals, I could definitely
Not too
do that.
technical.
But in essence, you are essentially, like, to put it very simply, we have a copy of Bitcoin running on VSC. So we have all of the VSC network essentially reads the data that's coming off of the Bitcoin network. Right, so we can see, like, is there transfers coming into our network, transfers coming out? You know, what's the things happening on Bitcoin? And then on the Bitcoin side, we have a specialized kind of system that allows our network to essentially control a set of addresses that are on the Bitcoin network, right? And so then that means that our system can directly interact with the Bitcoin network. And for Ethereum, it's the same deal, although it's a little bit different, where we have a smart contract that's on the Ethereum network, and it reads the data off of the VSC network, which allows kind of a two-way communication between both blockchains without any middlemen. It's directly our layer one is talking to the other layer one, right?
Okay.
And so that enables transfers between both chains to be fully trustless. There's no middleman. There's no kind of authority involved. It's a network talking to another network for the users that are on our network.
Okay, and then you will keep adding, I suppose, an ability to speak to or connect with other blockchains, so Solana and Ripple and Doge and Cardano.
Right.
Am I understanding you correctly?
Right. Yeah. That's exactly our goal.
Okay, and is it live, the project?
Right. So we launched our mainnet about 2 weeks ago, 2 months ago, and we launched our DeFi app about a month ago after. So we're working on the next couple of steps that involve the first liquidity pools and the first kind of connections on our network. And then we're planning to launch our main Bitcoin and Bitcoin fork connections later this year around August, September timeframe. So that'll mean that like Bitcoin and Litecoin, Dogecoin, Bitcoin Cash probably as well, Dash, and some of the other big Bitcoin forks will be integrated in our network. And then shortly after, we'll also do Ethereum as well, and then so on.
Okay. Now, am I right in thinking that VSE would take away the need for layer 2 projects in Ethereum like Arbitrum and Polygon and so on?
So that's actually a very interesting topic. It's in some sense kind of complementary because there's a lot of issues with just the layer 2 ecosystem on Ethereum. It's kind of hard to get between different layers, right? You have to, in order for you to get to Arbitrum, you have to kind of bridge it and send it through these different hoops. And so for us, it kind of makes things a bit more interesting because we are kind of the hub between everything else, between Bitcoin, Solana, et cetera. And these kind of different layer 2 projects are also kind of potential connections to what we're offering. And so we could have connections that are directly with like an Arbitrum that goes immediately to Bitcoin, for example. And then there's no need for like, going through Ethereum and all these kind of complicated hops that would typically have to happen for if we just hooked into Ethereum. Now that's kind of longer term of like, how do we tackle the layer 2 side of things? But there's definitely a lot of room for like, we can provide these kind of hubs between layer 2s and the rest of the ecosystem.
Okay. And then if I were to, what would it be like to even use it? Because I've got my Bitcoin in a Keystone hardware wallet. How would I use VSE to send it to another address or something? Or would I be using a VSE compatible wallet?
Right. So you would use like you'd probably want to have like another kind of wallet that you would be sending to if you're wanting to just send to yourself. So in that case, the most common would be like MetaMask. So you'd sign with your MetaMask, you'd sign into our app, and then you'd essentially just create a transaction on Bitcoin to a specific deposit address that's linked to your account. And so then you just send it as normally with your hardware wallet or whatever wallet of choice that you'd like. And then after about anywhere from between 10 minutes to an hour or so, it will get confirmed on our network and you'd show Bitcoin balance.
Right. Okay. And I'm sending native Bitcoin to an Ethereum address and it'll keep expanding. And this is mind boggling. And then what about the fees? Because I have to pay the Bitcoin fees, right?
Right. So you definitely have to pay the Bitcoin fees. That's kind of, can't prevent that.
No.
But what we do have that is quite unique is that we have no fees. We use a resource credit based model for all transactions on VSE. Now there is of course trading fees and liquidity fees and stuff like that, but there's no fees for direct transfers between wallets, meaning that you could send to any wallet feeless.
Okay, that makes no sense. All of this, Voltaire, forgive me. I don't mean to be rude, but a lot of this makes no sense, right?
Right. I did. Yeah. So a RC model is basically where instead of spending tokens, right, like spending your gas credits that you might have on Ethereum, and you kind of lose that balance. It is instead you have a staked balance. So when you're staking on VSE, that equals a certain number of resource credits. And we also have native kind of account abstraction. So that means that you can directly receive RCs from other users without needing to hold any balance at all. So that makes the kind of overall user experience much better than what you would have with Ethereum, where you have to get some tokens and then go through a complicated process just to get those tokens and then do your operation. Whereas now you can either stake it, so you can do as many transactions as you would like within a specific time frame, or you can get it from like an application where the application can give you a bit of resource credits. And so that makes the whole experience very easy and simple to interact with as an end user. That is kind of going along with the goals of us making it as easy as possible to work with on the crypto.
Yeah, that would make it a whole lot easier. And for people who are new to crypto, the reason why there are transaction fees, one is to reward those that are the miners or the stakers that are confirming and validating all the transactions on the blockchain, but also to prevent spamming, because it's expensive. It becomes expensive to send information across a blockchain because you got to pay a fee. Okay, so there is a fee, but it's accessed differently to
correct. Yeah.
To generally. Okay, all right, and then you have a token, the VSE token. I take it.
We're actually a bit unique in that we don't have a token at all at the moment. Longer term, we will have a token, like in the talking like two plus year time frame. But our goal is to make a sustainable project before we launch a token. And so we're really focused on that element, and we're using Hive assets for that. So instead of having to buy into some token, it's an already existing asset that has a community behind it and has a has a reputable project that we're kind of using as our base layer token. But we're not launching a token as a project, right? We don't believe in that kind of model where you would raise a bunch of money and then whether or not you ship or provide something is a different story. We want to build a sustainable business before we do those kind of things.
Okay, so then if people want to get involved, they would, and they want to stake, it's Hive, that coin that they're staking.
Correct.
Okay, which then intersects with ThreeSpeak because ThreeSpeak runs on the Hive blockchain. Okay, so now, so it's on the Hive blockchain. No, it is on the Hive blockchain, isn't it? If you use Hive as your coin.
Correct. Yeah, it's we're essentially kind of a layer 2 of Hive. And so we have our own kind of system that handles all of the cross-chain stuff and smart contracts and all of that side of things. But we're essentially just hooked into Hive, right? So we are an extension of Hive and all of the Hive accounts and everything like that, as well as other wallets that are compatible on our network, like EVM and Solana and whatnot.
Okay. Now, you mentioned earlier a DeFi app. What does that app do? Why? I mean,
right. So all of the kind of things that you would be doing with DSE. So trading, sending between wallets. We have like a fiat connection as well, so you can like go in and be able to pay with like Coinbase and some of these other fiat providers, and then a Lightning connection as well, so you can take like Bitcoin Lightning and send it immediately into DSE. And so we're trying to kind of make this app to be kind of the center hub of our network as well as other systems that we're hooking into. But we're also trying to build kind of almost like a super tool for DeFi at some point in the longer term future. And so we want to give kind of these advanced tools to our users as well, like things like accounting, like being able to track like your balance history and do some of these more advanced operations, and kind of provide this like experience of almost traditional banking, but it's crypto, where you have access to the whole wide world of all these different blockchains and tokens that you might want to have access to within our app. And so we're really trying to focus on like, how do we build both the network and then also build this kind of product that enables these kind of high usability things on VSE.
Okay. All right. Now, the fiat onboarding and offboarding, is KYC required for that?
We're just using our existing providers. So we have an integration with Coinbase. So you would basically be able to go into Coinbase, log in with your Coinbase account, and then you can buy crypto that goes into VSE, essentially. So that's already existing systems. We're not trying to invent anything new there, but it's just the already existing tools that we have available to offer to our users.
Okay, because otherwise what we're talking about is a non-KYC, fully decentralized, cross-chain, like you said earlier, hub for doing sorts of stuff on with cryptocurrency, including, I suppose, buying and selling Bitcoin for Ethereum or Solana or USDT.
Right.
Okay, all right. Now, what about privacy cryptos? What about Pirate Chain and Monero?
For sure. Those are all on our radar. The only problem is they're more complicated, right? Because they have these kind of privacy systems that make communication between chains harder. But it's definitely something that we're looking at, and it's kind of one of those things that's addressed case by case basis. But we're definitely looking at integrating those kind of systems. One thing I will note on that is kind of interesting is, since we have smart contracts on VSE, that means that these already existing tokens can actually be turned into privacy coins. Now, we haven't done as much research as we probably could, at least on this front, but since we have smart contracts and we have all of these different tokens, you could see a private version of Bitcoin, or a private version of USDC, or a private version of Ethereum. And that's something that I'm sure will be created over the next 2, 3, 4 years in the future, as people start to, even if we don't build it, other people will probably build it, right? And so we kind of offer something that's very unique, relatively, is we can turn already existing tokens into kind of private systems that you can easily transact on privately. So I think that's this very cool thing that we're also going to try to work with, integrating privacy cryptos as well.
Yeah, that'll be quite something. If I can, I'm one of the volunteer crew at Pirate Chain, and with Pirate Chain, every single transaction is ZK snarks. So there's no data on the blockchain, and the only people that know how much is the sender and the receiver. And Komodo, because Pirate Chain's a fork of Komodo, they've worked out an atomic swap with Pirate Chain on their DEX, but it's a little bit like I send you a little bit of Bitcoin, you then send me a little bit of Pirate.
Right.
It just breaks the transaction down into lots and lots of tiny little pieces. That's how they've managed.
Right.
Because otherwise, you just don't know.
Right. And so there's things like that. That's just the complexity that makes it hard to do these things. But we're definitely interested in doing that at some point. So it's all on our radar.
Okay, well, if you want to get connected to the devs at Pirate Chain, then you should let me know and I can do that.
For sure. Yeah.
Ready. Okay, so the application is available. What? I didn't get the website name.
So just VSE.eco.
VSE.ego.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, .ego. All right. Okay, so I'll have the links in the description below, and it's already running. And is there any particular way that it connects with HBD, the Hive?
Oh, yeah. Sure. Yeah. Our resource credits are with HBD. So when you hold HBD in your account, that generates resource credits.
Right.
So in addition to that as well, our liquidity pools have HBD in them. So what that means is all the assets that we'd have on our network, so Bitcoin, Ethereum, USDC, etc., are paired with HBD. And what's unique for that, as a liquidity provider holder or a general user, is that it's one-sided volatility, which means that if you're holding LP liquidity pair tokens, and you're holding tokens in that LP, right? You have Ethereum, and then you have some other token, right? And in our case, that's HBD. Well, HBD is a stablecoin, and so that means it's not going to change in value, right? It might vary a little bit, a few cents, but it's not going to change in value. You're not going to lose a huge amount of value, right? And so you really only have volatility on the side of the token that you have, like Ethereum. And so that means that as a liquidity pair holder, right, you're not really taking on a ton of risk that you would have with typical pairs, where you'd be paired with Ethereum and then paired with Bitcoin directly, or paired with something else. You only are paired with that direct link. And so you're only exposing yourself to one side of that risk, really, which dramatically decreases the risk of what you might have with again, multiple different pairs of volatile cryptos.
Right. Okay. And the thing about liquidity pools is that people can earn a little bit of revenue,
right,
by providing their funds to the liquidity pool. Now, is all your code, is it open source?
Yep, everything's open source.
Wow. Okay. Open source, fully decentralized, cross-chain hub.
Yep.
Well, what's not to like? Oh, and you're asking for no money.
Right. We're already funded from the Decentralized Hive Fund.
Right. Okay. Which is a community based.
Right. It's a DAO based kind of funding on the Hive blockchain.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, that's pretty great. And Volta, anything else you want to let us know before we finish up? Anything else we haven't covered?
I'm trying to think. No, I think I got through most of it. Definitely check us out, VSE.eco. Our Twitter is also VSE_eco, and my personal is just VaultTech81 on Twitter. And so definitely check us out. Interact with the tweets, give us support. All that would be much appreciated. Okay,
VSE.eco, ECHO.
Yeah.
Do you know, I thought you said ego.
Oh.
Okay.
No. We're not that.
It doesn't sound like a very egocentric project. It's a project.
It's an ecosystem. Right.
Okay. So VSE.eco, not VSE.echo.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay, so there's a Briton talking to American, separate by a common language. Okay,
eco as in ecosystem.
As in ecosystem. That makes a whole lot more sense than echo or ego. All right. Okay, Voltic, thank you so much for making yourself available. Please go check out VSE.eco and also check out 3speak.tv. And between now and when I see you next, please keep filling your pockets with decentralized profits. This is Crypto Rich and Crypto Voltic signing out. All the best. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you. Bye.